Welcome to HIDE, short IDs for robust and anonymous linking of users across multiple sessions in small HCI experiments. My name is Frode Eika Sandnes and I'm with Oslo Metropolitan University in Oslo, Norway. The motivation for this study is as follows. If you run a single session experiment, you do not really need to know who the participants are. However, if you run 2 or more sessions, you need some way of linking the participants across each session so that you can make meaningful analysis. You typically do not want to store the names of the participants in the data files. Instead, we use a linking table, which allows us to connect an anonymous ID with the identity of the participant. If this linking table is lost, we can no longer guarantee the anonymity of the participants. So we therefore would like to have a scheme where we can abolish the linking table altogether. This can easily be achieved using hash codes. However, hash codes are long, they look cryptic, and they can even confirm that a particular participant was part of an experiment. The HIDE procedure attempts to generate short ID codes. These short ID codes are easier to understand for the participants, and they also provide better anonymity. The first thing we need to do in order to use the HIDE procedure is to set up the experiment. To set up an experiment, I go to the web tool and I go to the checklist and salt setup. Here I have a text box where I can input my list of participants. So here I have a fictitious list of names, which I paste into this box. Then I simply click on checklist and find the best salt. And here I quickly get the answer, and we see that the salt is abandoned, and we get the 2-digit codes. And here we have the list of these participants. Say I now want to look up the ID of Graham. I can now see here that actually the right answer should be ID 94, but let's try it anyway. So I enter here the name of the participant in the name field, Graham David, and then I know it's abandoned, so I can take the salt here, copy that up here to this field. Then I select, I want the 2-digit code, and then I generate the linking code, and I get 94. Of course, if I wanted to, I could also see what it looks like if I chose longer ID codes as well. Here I get 894. The HIDE procedure can tolerate many types of input errors. For instance, phonetic transcription errors. So I could, for instance, here write Graham. Let's see if they can deal with that. Yes, it can. I could, for instance, have doubling the M here. It can manage that as well. If I replace the M with a similar sounding N, it will tolerate that as well. And I could change the order here. So I could put David Y. Graham like this, and it's still okay. But all the parts need to be here. So if I, for instance, leave out Y, take that away, if I miss that, I'll get a different answer. So this is an example of something it cannot manage. Imagine we have the name Lena Hansson and Line Hansson, which are different names, but they sound very similar. And in this instance, the tool will report that these are too similar, and that is because of the way the soundic procedure works. One way to overcome this will be to add something to the name that you will remember to make it unique. So imagine that Lena Hansson always drinks decaffeinated coffee. Then I could, for instance, add decaffeinated after her name